Welcome to another episode of Stadium Tours. Today I'm so excited and I want to take you to Stamford Bridge. Stamford Bridge is home for the Blues or Chelsea, and I can't wait to see what their stadium looks like. I only see it on telly, and let's have a tour and see what they got.
Any of this until the end of the tour. Water's absolutely fine, but anything else, just try and save it for later. The only serious rule we do have, guys, is please nobody go on the pitch. Okay? That's the only big rule we have. No restrictions. Feel free to take as many photos as you like. If you'd like me to take photos for you, do feel free to ask. But I do tend to charge about £5.
Well, I got a chance to take a photo about the Chelsea Stadium. Chelsea Stadium capacity is 40,000 people. It can take up to 40,000 people. That's very small compared to the big four teams like Arsenal, Manchester United, Tottenham, Liverpool. They have huge stadiums. But the good news to Chelsea fans is that Chelsea, the plans is underway that they want to build a bigger stadium. I don't know when, because the owners just bought Chelsea recently, and we don't know if they have money to spend on a new stadium, but it is something which was underway before they bought it. So let's wait and see. And another interesting fact about this pitch is that I learned Chelsea Football Club uses £2 million every year just to maintain the grass in the pitch. I mean, that's huge money, but not in football world.
Alright then, everybody. As we'll say, during the game to watch the match, you get a pretty good view up there, as you probably saw yourselves. Although from time to time there can be moments where maybe you're not watching the whole game, you might be looking away for a minute or checking your phone. and all of a sudden a goal might go in, or a big foul happens, or a handball, and everyone's going crazy about it. But the thing is, for you and I, it's not the end of the world if you miss anything like that, because we're just regular fans. You can go see it on the highlights later on the replays. But as it
Pas iets koud.
On a typical match day, the players will tend to have stayed the night before a game at a hotel just down the road from here in a place called Chelsea Harbour. So they normally stay the night there just so that Graham Potter can make sure that all the players are going to bed at the right time. No one's staying up past their bedtime, and will get a good night's sleep. The next morning, they will all go to breakfast together. They will have a team breakfast at the hotel, and they will get on the bus. A bus will take them from the hotel, about a 5-minute drive just over to the stadium, where they'll come in the doors just out there in the tunnel. They'll come through here about an hour and a half before the game starts. They'll put all their bags and stuff into their lockers. They'll then get changed into their training kit. They'll go out onto the pitch to warm up for maybe half an hour to 45 minutes. After that, they'll come back into the changing room, just go next door into the tactics area, where Graham Potter will go through all of the individual roles of the player. That signals the players that it is time to go and line up in the tunnel. Obviously, they then go out and play the match. At the end of the game, if a player has suffered any kind of injury, or they just want a nice massage to relax, they head over to the medical area behind me. Each of those beds will have a doctor or a physio sat there ready to treat the players. We can also have, you see that black machine there in between the beds? That is actually an ultrasound. So very similar to what you use on pregnant women with to see the baby inside their stomachs. You can also use that on muscles and on bones and everything. It's like an X-ray on steroids almost, because you can just see everything inside that part. So for example, if you want to check blood flow, you can check blood flow in a muscle, or injuries, you can just check everything's kind of coming back together and mending itself in the right way. It's an easy way of doing a quick X-ray basically. Now, moving on from there, we have the showers in the right-hand corner, and amongst the showers we have an ice bath. So if players play for within 20 minutes of the game, they'll be required to have an ice bath. And the reason for this is because during exercise, your body will build up lactic acid. And that's the stuff that makes your muscles hurt. So if you're maybe going to the gym, you're trying to hit that bench press personal record, and you get all the way to the top, and then your arms just go, and you can't go any further. That's because your body has built up too much lactic acid, and your muscles will just fail because they hurt too much. And they go numb almost. And the next day, you can't open doors, you can't walk up and down stairs. That's because the lactic acid has stayed in your body overnight and it's not been released. So then that's when your muscles really hurt. If you jump in a bath of ice for 5 to 10 minutes after your exercise, what happens is the cold temperatures, I don't know exactly the science about it, but the cold temperatures will relax the muscles a little bit more, and that helps for them to release the lactic acid that's got stuck in the muscles, and then that means that your body will then be able to train and run around the next day because it won't have had the lactic acid staying inside it basically. I know that's a really bad explanation of it all. I mean, I know if I was more of a scientist I would have said a lot more detail, but I hope you can all understand what I was trying to say basically. Any questions about that at all? All good? Okay, so I did explain it alright, so that's good. Final bit of this changing room though, obviously this is the main area of the changing room. This is where the players would sit on a match day. These are all their lockers. Obviously they wouldn't have the shirts up like this though. They have these Chelsea plaques will be changed to their names. These shirts aren't actually real shirts either. These shirts that the players wear for matches are actually very, very different to the ones that we sell in the shop just over there. The reason for this is because the players will go through around 3,000 shirts in total as a team throughout the whole season. Because every player has 3 shirts per game, and we obviously play lots of games throughout the season. So normally it is around 3,000 shirts in total. Obviously if we're making those shirts out of the same materials that these shop ones are made out of, we're going to be wasting a lot of raw materials, a lot of cottons, a lot of, I don't really know what the shirts are made up of, but stuff you can't get rid of basically, unsustainable materials. So what we do instead is to stay sustainable, we take plastic, we recycle it, just average bottles and stuff like that, plastic bottles, gets recycled and remade into shirts. So all of the Chelsea shirts for the first team are made out of recycled plastic instead of wasting all the unsustainable stuff. Okay, that's the last bit about the changing room. Any questions you guys might want to know at all? Anything? A couple of old players, I'll just say where they used to go. So Frank Lampard and John Terry were in Mason Mount and Loftus-Cheek's lockers. Cesc Fabregas was where Christian Pulisic was. Timo Werner was where Sterling was. We also had Eden Hazard and Romelu Lukaku were in Aubameyang's locker. Rudiger is where Zakaria is now. Chukwuemeka's locker, that used to belong to, it was Didier Drogba's at the time, Diego Costa's, and Olivier Giroud's. They all had that locker at some point. And then along here you had lots of Brazilian players in the past as well, like Ramirez, Oscar, David Luiz, Diego Costa, Willian, all those kind of guys would be along that side as well. Alright? Okay then everyone, what we're going to do now then is move on. We're going to head into the tunnel and line up as if we're going to go out on the pitch. So if you want to follow me this way, we'll get lined up.
Papa. Hazard.
So, every time, if you guys haven't been to a game, you might recognise this song. But every time the Chelsea team is out at home, we play this song. It's called The Liquidator. It's a reggae song from about 1970. We've been playing it ever since then. Very nice. So guys, if you'd like to take photos in the chairs, do feel free. That's more than welcome. Have some pictures and then I'll get you to sit down in just a minute. Comfy chairs this time. They're actually from Audi. Now the seating plan for the Chelsea team will normally be as follows. So where you are, sir, this is where the manager would be, Graham Potter, Thomas Tuchel. Why that might be? Any ideas? No idea. Any idea? Yes. So whenever it rains, any water that's not taken in by the grass itself will run off the pitch into these grates here to prevent the pitch from getting waterlogged. Now it's not enough of a gradient to affect the football in any way, so if you kick a ball along there it's not going to roll any faster one way. Close by to motivate you to start singing back at them when they're yelling at you. And then also the ticket prices aren't too bad here as well. You're going average it's about 50 to 70 pounds per game. Obviously depends on who you're playing and depends on the competition. But yeah, for your smallest game it'll be about 50. For your most expensive it might go up to 100. Just depends on once again who you're playing and what competition it is. Now, can you see the pitch behind me? Obviously you can get a better view of it right now, but can you obviously see all the different colours and patterns on the pitch? Lots of people tend to ask us how they do that. It obviously seems like it would be such a really complicated thing to do. However, it is very simple. It is just basically mowing the lawn or mowing the grass in specific directions and only in that specific direction, and then that way the grass will grow and give out a look of a different colour almost. It's very similar, so if you guys were to take your hand and run it up your jeans, and then run it back down, they change colour basically. If you've ever done that before, do it right now if you want, you'll see that it will change colour and then change back. And that's exactly the same thing that we do on the pitch just there. We also have a pigment of seaweed. The green pigment from seaweed is added to the fertiliser that we use on the pitch, just to make sure that it goes extra green as well. What's happening with these lighting rigs that you can see out on the pitch at the moment, the reason we have them, we're going to start using them a lot more at the moment, because obviously it is getting darker, it's getting rainy, the weather's getting worse, and lots of parts of the pitch get a lot less sunlight than they would have done over summer now. So that means that to make sure that there's no patches or any bad looking bits, we will tend to just blast those UV lamps to just make sure the grass keeps growing. Okay. Now, moving back to the stands and everything, I'm just going to point out a few more things before we wrap up the tour. So just above us, guys, there's that grey box there. Lots of people tend to think that's the TV studios or the commentary box. That is actually the security box. So up there, that is where the police and everyone will be during the game. They have about 300 cameras in total that they can access from that room. And those cameras are all around the stadium. There's a few in the streets as well, going up to the station. And basically, they just want to monitor everyone, make sure everyone's behaving themselves. The cameras inside the stadium actually have an interesting bit of software on them. So if, for example, someone is misbehaving or unwell or something in this area, at seat 168, row 4 of the shed upper, they will point the camera at that person, It will actually also then tell them the name of that person who has bought the ticket, because you have to use your name when you buy a ticket. So it can give them information if they need to know, maybe any information they want to know about you, they can get it basically. Or if it is just basically to prevent any big incidents that happen in the stadium. Okay. Moving on, we have, can anyone see the Union Jacks just below there? Those purple seats behind the glass windows. Just down there, that is the players' lounge. That's where the players' wives and girlfriends and children, family, friends and everything like that will tend to sit during the game to watch the match. Usually, whenever you see players scoring goals and you see them blowing kisses when they're celebrating or doing hearts or waving and stuff, they're not doing all that and blowing kisses to some random bloke in the crowds. They normally be doing that to their children or family sat in there, obviously waving back as well. Now, moving on from there, can everyone see the third floor, the third tier of the West Stand, those glass windows up there? So that is the private boxes in the stadium. We talked about the cheapest area in the stadium to sit. Now we're talking about the most expensive area to sit. So those boxes, you rent them for about a season, but they have a funny contract here where if you do rent them for 1 season, you rent them for 10, because most people that buy them will tend to customize them themselves and want to put their own little things in there for them. So obviously it's a bit annoying for the renovation team if they have to do that every year. So they make sure you have to do it for 10 seasons that you rent it. And one of those will cost you, on average, about £300,000 for a season. So obviously you have to buy it 10 times. So that's £3 million you're spending in total on that investment. However, you are able to use that room anytime you want. They are currently open right now. If people want to go use them, they can use them if they bought them. You can customize the room, as I said. You can put anything you want in there: sofas, Xboxes, PlayStations, hot tubs, I don't even know, anything really. You can also get any kind of food you want, any kind of drinks. So obviously you are treated very, very well up there. If you guys are interested in buying one of those, do come and see me after the tour. I do take cash, so do feel free to come and see me. But yeah, most of them are owned by sponsors. So you can obviously see, everyone looks about 6 in from the left. You can see Nike's where it says "Just Do It." That is their box. Carabao also have one. Yokohama Tires have one. Sky Sports have their own. And of course, our owners, they have their own box as well. Ted Bowley, can anyone see where it says Chelsea FC? Yeah. Right in the middle? Yeah. That is where his box is. So whenever he comes to games, he'll be sat up there with all the other owners sat with him. Okay, now we're going to move on to TV, talk about some TV stuff. So can you guys see the top right-hand corner of the Matthew Harding stand, those glass windows between the numbers 15 and 16? Those are the windows for the TV studios for Sky Sports and BT Sport. So if you're ever watching on TV and you see all the ex-football players like Gary Lineker, Roy Keane, Graham Souness, all talking about the matches and everything and having big arguments with each other, it will tend to be up in those rooms up there. Also, finally, we have the commentary box. So the commentary box, can everyone see all the way at the top of the East Stand, those black seats up there? That is the commentary box. So wherever you guys are from, if you're listening on the radio, watching on TV, the commentary will tend to be coming from all the way up there. They also have TV screens, just like they do in the press box, because obviously they are very high up and it can be difficult to see what's going on when you're all the way up there from time to time. Okay, does anyone have any final questions or anything they would like to know before we wrap up?
Why was the capacity of the stadium reduced?
Why was it reduced? So it only was reduced very little. So it was 42,000 initially, but now it's just under 41,000. And the reason we did that was to allow for more accessible seating, because the stadium didn't actually have enough wheelchair access and accessible seating for anyone. So we actually almost got in trouble for that. We had to get people in to basically, so you can kind of see it from here, but in the West Stand, all the way at the front, there's like little line spaces. So that is now for wheelchair access. Before we had a whole row of seats there. There's lots of different areas that you probably won't be able to notice at the moment, but they've just taken seats out just to basically allow for more accessible seating. But yeah, the capacity is just under 41,000. It's not that big. It's quite a small stadium, especially it is the smallest one out of all the top 5 or 6 clubs. All the other ones are more like 60,000 to 80,000. So we do really, I mean, Chelsea is such a globalised club as well. We do really need a new stadium, but it's just whether or not it's going to Like we have the plans, we have everything ready if we want to do it, but it's whether or not the new owners, who've already spent 4.2 billion, are going to want to spend another 1.2 billion. So it's all down to them. It's in their court really. But if they do that, I don't have a job for 4 years. So it's up and down. Hopefully find another job by then. But yeah. Right. Any other questions?
Is the price including drinks for food?
Yes. Food and drink will be included. You would hope. You would hope
Okay.
it would be included. Any more?
No, then it's not.
We all good? Cool. Okay, that is the end of the tour there, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves. What we're going to do now is take you to the mega store so you can spend even more money. If you guys haven't seen it in the kits yet, or maybe want to buy one of those shirts, feel free, you can do it there. You can get them printed with your name and everything on them as well. Or you can just buy anything you possibly imagine with a Chelsea badge on it. If you guys had your photos taken with the trophies, we can print them out there for you as well in the mega store.
Van het Nederlands zelf afgeroepen.
Well, thank you so much.
Of course.
Kijk zo lekker op de mooie jas. Ja, dat is een keuze.
It's so
Mateo, his assistant was promoted to interim first team
media
coach.
from the fans.
Chelsea fans looking at the
Probably the noise, like all this package of preparing the Champions League final
coach.
is absolutely
Mateo
awesome.
had another opportunity to make history.
Chelsea finished the job off at Old Trafford 2 weeks later. A game watched by a TV audience of 28.4 million people, making it the 5th most watched TV broadcast in UK history. Even more than the wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana in 1982. However, it has to be said that English football back then was, how should we put this, a bit more physical than today. The replay was a brutal encounter. In fact, years later, a Premier League referee reviewed it to see how the match compared with the modern game. His verdict? If the game was being played today, he would have dished out 6 red cards and at least 20 yellows. Since then, Chelsea have won 7 more, slightly less physically contested FA Cup titles, including the double in 2010.
Of course, I was very nervous. I thought I have to score now.
He would, you know, like maybe if Kai needs a penalty, they would perhaps say, oh, he was the one that was shooting at them.
Of course, I was very nervous. I thought I have to score now.
He would, you know, like maybe if Kai needs a penalty, they would perhaps say, oh, he was the one that was shooting at them.